Okay, good morning to everyone. Okay, as I told in the previous session, today we are going to discuss about the hardware of Intel 8051 microcontroller. Okay, when you want to develop some system, okay, in the previous session itself we have discussed many things about the microcontroller. Okay, if you want to develop a system for a control application, you can prefer a microcontroller. Okay, based upon the application requirement, you can choose your microcontroller. Okay, in our course, we are going to study about 8051 microcontroller, Intel 8051 microcontroller. So it is the most successful it was the very most successful microcontroller for long period. Okay, it occupies a large span in the field of embedded system. Okay, it's a very successful microcontroller, but it is outdated now, but still it is used in some applications. Okay, fine. To solve your engineering problems or to establish some control application, still you can manage to do it with 8051 microcontroller. That's why we asked to do project also. Okay, again I am repeating you. Okay, we are not sure whether you people are going to come to college or not. If you people are coming to college, we can continue the project. Okay, or else those who are interested to do the project, you can contact us. We will give you some guidelines. Okay, fine. Before getting into today's topic, so what are the things we have discussed in the previous session? So we have discussed about 8085 SIM and RIM word format. Okay, what is the purpose of SIM instruction? What is the purpose of SIM instruction? Can you people type it in the chat? Kindly interact. Okay, 8051 நம்ம புதுசா படிக்க போறோம். Fine. இதை வச்சு நீங்க ப்ராஜெக்ட்டும் பண்றதுக்கு ஹெல்ப்ஃபுல்லா இருக்க போகுது. So theory part, definitely if you understand, then you can write assembly language program for 8051. Okay. What is the purpose of the instruction SIM and RIM? Can you people type it in the chat? Yes, very good, Anthony Surya. SIM instruction is used to mask the interrupt. Okay. What are all the interrupts you can mask using SIM instruction? Can you people type it in the chat? Out of 5 interrupts, which of the interrupts are can be masked using SIM instruction? You can see 3 bits. Yes, M 5.5, 6.5, 7.5. What it means? Yes, any idea? Yes, very good. RS is 5.5, 6.5, 7.5. This 3 interrupt we can mask using the SIM instruction. Okay. Before executing the SIM instruction, where the SIM word format must be presented. In the register, SIM word format must be stored. Yes, very good, accumulator. Thank you. Okay. What about RIM? What about RIM instruction? What is the purpose of RIM instruction? To know the status of the pending interrupt as well as the status of the interrupt which are all masked. Okay. What is the only way to mask INTR interrupt? What is the only method? Yes. If you use EI, you can enable all the interrupts. That means INTR interrupt. Okay. If you use DI, you can disable INTR interrupt along with other interrupts. Okay. Except trap. Trap is the only non-maskable interrupt we have studied. Then we have introduced about microcontrollers. In short, what a microcontroller can be called as? Classroom tool response varradilla. Fine. In classroom tool kelvi keklan. Yes, very good, Dixon. Very good. System on a chip. Okay, fine. Then we have gone with some examples for a system based on microcontroller. Okay. Then we have discussed the comparison of microprocessor and microcontroller. Okay. For control-oriented application, to do a specific operation repeatedly. Okay. For that thing, we can go for a microcontroller. If you are interested to do a faster computing, okay, or general purpose application, you can prefer microprocessor. Okay. So implementing a system using microprocessor is also possible, but you have to check in different aspects. Cost of the system, okay, then circuit complexity, then many things. Okay, fine. So now we will continue with 8051 microcontroller architecture. Okay, so today we are going to discuss about the architecture of Intel 8051 microcontroller. Fine. Before getting into the architecture, we have to know the features of 8051 microcontroller. Fine. First of all, it operates at plus 5 volt DC supply with a tolerance of 10%. Okay, plus 5 volt DC power supply is the operating voltage we have to provide for 8051 microcontroller. Okay, with a tolerance of plus or minus 10%. That I have mentioned tolerance. Okay, that means 4.5 to 5.5 in the range will operate panna, but the typical operating voltage is plus 5 volt. Okay, then it is having on-chip clock oscillator. It's having on-chip clock oscillator. What it means? Like your 8085 microcontroller, here also we are having a internal oscillator so that you can connect the crystal outside to generate the clock pulse. Fine. So with this you can conclude what about the size of 8051 microcontroller. It is having a 8-bit CPU optimized for control applications. That means what? Yes, 8051 is a 8-bit microcontroller. Okay, like 8085, it is also an 8-bit microcontroller because it is having a CPU core of 8-bit. Yes, extensive Boolean processing capability. This microcontroller is having the CPU which can perform a large number of bit operations. Okay, that we say extensive Boolean processing capability. As the bit handling capability is very important for control-oriented application, it is specifically having many instructions which can do bit operation. Okay. Then the maximum operating frequency of 8051 microcontroller is from 12 MHz to 16 MHz based upon the versions. We are having different versions of 8051 microcontroller. Fine. So adula vandu 12 MHz and 16 MHz varaikum operate agra mari we have 8051 microcontroller families. Okay. Then very important thing, as we told, it is a microcontroller. We are still speaking about the CPU, then operating frequency, operating voltage. Apart from that, as it is a microcontroller, definitely it must have what? Apart from CPU, port pins. Very good. Then very important thing. Yes, very good. Memory. Fine. So when we are seeing memory, there are two ways you have to see. Okay, see what I am giving the task to the particular microcontroller. Okay, that is a program. It must be stored permanently. Okay, once I have written the program into the microcontroller, till I reprogram it, it should function for what I have written the code. Fine. So definitely it needs 4 kilobyte. Sorry, definitely it needs ROM memory. Okay, which is a read-only memory. Fine. So it is non-volatile memory. Correct or not? So once you store the program, it will be available till you reprogram it. Fine. So here in 8051 microcontroller, you have a 4 KB on-chip ROM memory. Fine. So here only we are going to write the programs. Yes, are you able to understand what I am saying? When we go for memory, we are having two types: ROM, RAM. Fine. You consider our 8085 trainer kit, where the monitor code is stored in RAM memory or ROM memory. Lab la use pannrom இல்லையா trainer kit. Yes, ROM memory. Why it is ROM memory? Because it is non-volatile. Even though if you turn off the system, the code stored in the ROM remains same till you reprogram it. Fine. So here in Intel 8051 microcontroller, we are having a 4 KB of on-chip ROM memory. Fine. Similarly, it needs another memory, RAM memory. For what? RAM memory எதுக்காக யூஸ் ஆகும்பா? Say for example வந்து நம்ம நேத்தியே பார்த்தோம் கரெக்ட்டா. When we are saying some control oriented application, user input has to be given. Fine. So on the user input நம்ம store பண்ணி வைக்கிறதுக்கு we need memory. Fine. Yes, very good. Okay. For storing the data, process data or the data to be processed, we need a RAM memory. Fine. So here we have a limited size only, 128 byte, but it is a sufficient memory for a control application. Correct? Say for example, now ஒரு 5 device control பண்ண போறேன். Fine. I'm going to turn on or turn off the device based upon some inputs. Okay. For this purpose, we need a limited number of RAM area. That is enough for our application. Is it good or not? Is it correct or not? Say for example, you consider your TV remote control. Okay, it is having a microcontroller, or you consider your AC remote, whatever it may be. Fine. It is going to get the user input. To store that, we need some memory. That's all. For such purpose, this memory is a sufficient thing only. 128 byte அப்படின்னு பார்க்குறப்ப கம்பேரிட்டிவா இப்போ நம்ம யூஸ் பண்ற மெமரிலாம் கம்பேர் பண்றப்ப it is very very small only, but it is enough for a control oriented application. ஒரு கண்ட்ரோல் அப்ளிகேஷன்ல எனக்கு நிறைய மெமரி வச்சுட்டு நமக்கு பிரயோஜனம் கிடையாது. ஃபைன். பட் இஃப் யுவர் அப்ளிகேஷன் ரெக்வயர்ஸ் மெமரி more than this, at the time what you have to do? See, here in Intel 8051 microcontroller, you are having a 4 KB on chip ROM for storing the program. See, this 4 KB ROM memory can also be called as 4 KB program memory or code memory. This 128 byte RAM memory can also be called as data memory. Clear? You have to know the meaning for these things. Whatever the program you are writing, it is going to be stored in the 4 KB ROM, on chip ROM. Whatever the user data you are getting from the IO devices, it is going to be stored in the RAM only. Fine. Are you able to understand what I am saying? RAM la nama variables store panni vechikalam. Whatever the things you are reading from the user input, that is going to be a variable. It can be stored in the RAM only. Fine. Suppose if this memory is not sufficient, at that point of time, as an engineer, what you will think? The memory எனக்கு பத்தாது சார் அப்படினா என்ன பண்ணலாம்? Yes, what you can do? Yes, we can have external memory. Additionally, we can have memory externally. Fine. For that also, there is a limit, like your 8085 microprocessor. What about the maximum addressing capability of 8085 microprocessor? Maximum எவ்வளவு memory address பண்ண முடியும்? 8085 microprocessor. Yes, very good. 64 KB. Okay. There we cannot say 64 KB யும் எனக்கு ROM தான் இருக்கணும் இல்ல RAM தான் இருக்கணும். We cannot tell. Fine. In that 64 KB, both ROM and RAM memory are organized. Correct? But here in Intel 8051 microcontroller, you can have a 64 KB of external RAM and external ROM. Fine. 64 KB external RAM, 64 KB external ROM. Both can be expanded. Fine. Fine. Is it clear? So it is having a 8-bit CPU optimized for control application. That's the very first point what we have discussed. Then 4 KB on chip ROM, then 128 byte internal RAM. Fine. If that memory is not sufficient, it can also address a maximum 64 KB of ROM as well as RAM. Fine. Then it is having 4 8-bit ports. Okay, 4 8-bit ports. Later we will discuss what about the purpose of these things and all. Okay, to interface any input-output device, we need port pin. Correct? Yes or no? So for that, internally it is having the port circuit. There are 4 ports available in 8051 microcontroller. Okay, each port is 8-bit. So totally 32 pins we are having. The 32 bits are bidirectional and can be individually programmable. Fine. Over bit na enna pannalam? Set, reset pannikkalam. We can set or reset, or we can read the logic available at the pin. It is bidirectional. That means the pin can be used as either input pin or output pin at a time. Input use pannikkalam, output use pannikkalam, but only one at a time. Fine. Then it is having 2 16-bit timer bar counter. Okay. In digital, we have discussed about the operation of counter. Correct? up counter, down counter படிச்சிருக்கோம் கரெக்ட்டுங்களா? So here we are having a 16-bit binary up counter. Okay, two timer bar counter. Okay, later we will discuss what is the functioning of timer and the counter, how it is going to differentiate. Fine. In digital, we have studied on every clock pulse, the value in the counter register will get incremented by 1. Correct or not? Yes? Yes or no? Similarly, here we are having two 16-bit timer bar counter modules available inside the chip. Fine. So whatever we are speaking now, I think somebody unmuted.
Maria, 131 Maria.
131 Marian. Okay, I have muted him. Okay. So we are having two 16-bit timer bar counter. Okay. The purpose of this timer bar counter are to generate the timing signal or to count the external event. Say for example, I am having a system which is going to detect how many persons are entering into the room. Fine. So in such scenario, when a person enters into the room, we must have some sensor, correct? That sensor should produce a pulse. Clear? So it can be used for counting purpose as well as to generate the timing. Fine? Both can be done using this thing. That's why it is called a 16-bit timer bar counter. Both operation can be done by the module, but only one at a time. ரெண்டுமே ஒரே நேரத்துல பண்ண முடியாது. Either it can be configured as timer or it can be configured as counter. Fine. Then we are having a full duplex serial UART. Okay. So it is meant for serial communication, which follows the UART protocol. Kindly note down the word UART. UART stands for what? Any idea? Have you heard about this word? UART. Universal Asynchronous Receiver Transmitter. Fine. So about this and all we will study later. Fine. So this 4 8-bit ports are meant for parallel data transfer between input device and the microcontroller. Fine. Between IO and microcontroller. This full duplex serial UART, it's for serial communication between the IO device and the microcontroller. Fine. Okay. So you already know serial communication means how many pins we need to transfer the data. To transmit the data, say for example, to transmit a 8-bit data, okay, serially, how many lines we need? Already we have discussed in digital, correct? We have studied in digital. Yes, only one line. Very good, Shivakumar. Through that one line, we can shift 1 by 1 bit after the another, correct? In a sequence, correct? What about in the case of parallel communication? If I want to transfer an 8-bit data from one device to another, we need 8 lines. Very good, fine. So here we are having a full duplex serial UART. That means when it is transmitting, at the same time it can also able to receive. Both can be done simultaneously. Fine. That we call it as full duplex serial UART. Fine. That module is available inside the 8-bit microcontroller. Then it is having 5 vector interrupts with 2 levels of priority from 6 sources. Okay. Totally in 8-bit microcontroller we are having 5 interrupts. Okay. மொத்தமா 5 interrupt இருக்கு. It can be programmed in either in level 0 or level 1. The interrupts can be programmed in 2 levels. Okay. So எதெல்லாம் level 1ல இருக்கோ அதெல்லாம் high priority சொல்லலாம், எதெல்லாம் level 0ல இருக்கோ அதெல்லாம் low priority சொல்லலாம். By default all the interrupts are programmed in low level priority. Level 0ல தான் program ஆயிடும். Fine. We can able to program the interrupts. Totally it can handle 5 interrupts. Out of that 5 interrupts, only 2 are from external devices. The 3 are internally generated interrupts. Okay, kindly note down this. Out of the 5 vector interrupts, 2 of them are from external devices. Okay, external IO ல இருந்து நமக்கு கிடைக்கக்கூடிய interrupts என்ன இருக்குன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, it can handle 2 external interrupts and it can handle 3 internal interrupts. Okay, that we will discuss later. Then we are having power saving hardware. Okay, when you are saying some control application, say for example a billing machine or something else, they are all battery operated. Fine, they are all battery operated. Sometimes this kind of system can be operated in a remote location. That means they can be operated with a battery backup. Okay, so power is a very important constraint when it is a remote application. Correct? Say for example, ஒரு காட்டுக்குள்ள நான் ஒரு system நான் embed பண்ணி வைக்கிறேன். Fine. It is going to give some parameter from the forest, or it is going to track the animal location. Fine. In such systems, the power, the provision to provide the power is a critical thing. Fine. So such device can be a battery operated thing. So in that case, power is very, very important. For example, in forest area, I am going to fix a sensor with a controller. Correct? It is going to gather some data. And it is going to transmit to a control station. For example, you consider this application. Fine. Power is an important criteria, prime thing for this particular application, critical thing for this particular application. Okay, that means 24/7 என்னோட microcontroller normal mode la run ஆயிட்டே இருந்துச்சுன்னா எனக்கு என்ன ஆகும்? It consumes more power. Correct? That means periodically, if I send the data from that forest location to the control room, okay, it doesn't consume much power. Correct? So என்ன பண்ணிக்கலாம் அப்படின்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, here in 8051 microcontroller there are two power saving modes available. In that power saving mode, it is going to consume lesser power compared to the normal mode of operation. So it is going to save the power consumption by the system. Correct? So 8051, it is having two modes of power saving things are available. Okay, two power saving modes of operations are available in 8051 microcontroller. Fine. So that's all about the features of 8051 microcontroller. Okay, do you have any doubts up to this? Any doubts? Whatever the hardware we have listed in this page, okay, except the first point, all are internal IO devices. They are internally present in the microcontroller. That means internally present in the IC. On-chip peripherals are IO devices. Is it clear to everyone? Yes? Shall we proceed? Yes. Okay. Fine. So before getting into any microcontroller, you have to know about its features. Okay. So adala enna provisions la irukku abindrathu therinjirukkom. Fine. In the case of 8051 microcontroller, we are having this features. Okay. It doesn't mean all the microcontroller is going to have this kind of things only. Okay. Advanced microcontrollers have many IO devices. Okay, நிறைய விஷயங்கள் உள்ள இன்டர்னலா இருக்கும். ADC, DAC module, okay, RTC module, then other communication protocol, everything it is available in a microcontroller. Fine. In the case of 8051 microcontroller, we are having 4 8-bit ports. Okay, then 2 16-bit timer bar counter, then 1 serial port. Okay, then 5 interrupts it can handle, then 2 power saving modes it is having. Fine. So that's all about the features of 8051 microcontroller. Okay, now we will get into the block diagram. Okay, functional block diagram of 8051 microcontroller. Here you can see. So this is the block diagram of the 8051 microcontroller. So here we have the 8-bit CPU. Here it is there. Correct? Fine. All the components are to be connected to the CPU through a communication path that we call it as internal bus. Correct? Here we can see all the things are connected to this internal bus. Okay. So what are the things we have discussed in the features? Feature la enna paathom? It is having a 8-bit CPU. It is available here. Then it is having a on-chip oscillator. Yes, it is available here. Okay. Wait a minute. I will do something. Wait a minute. Wait for some time. Okay, fine. here I marked a red line, correct? So within this thing, what are all available are internal things. Okay, இதுக்கு வெளியில உள்ளதெல்லாம் பாத்தீங்கன்னா external, correct? So the boundary க்கு வெளியில உள்ளது எல்லாமே பாத்தீங்கன்னா externally we are having pins, correct? Okay, so now we can come. So we are having a 8-bit CPU. It can capable of doing many bit operation instructions, correct? It can handle many bit operations, fine? Then coming to the features, memory பொறுத்தவரைக்கும் என்ன சொன்னோம்? What about the on-chip ROM size? What about the size of on-chip ROM? Features சொன்னோம், correct? 4 KB, very good, fine. So here we have a 4 KB ROM. So it is read only. That's why the bus is unidirectional. So from this ROM, it can get the program and it is given to the CPU to execute it, correct? Then we are having 128-byte RAM. So it is also connected to the internal bus. It is bidirectional in nature, fine. Then we are having 4 8-bit ports, correct? The name of the ports are port 0, port 1, port 2, port 3. Totally we are having 4 ports. Each port are 8-bit in nature. What it mean? Port 0 means சொன்னா அதுல எத்தனை pin இருக்கு? Port 0 means how many pins it is going to have? 8 pins, not 4, Anthony Surya. See, we are having 4 ports. Port 0, port 1, port 2, port 3. 4 input-output ports we are having. Each port we are having 8 pins. So total எத்தனை pin இருக்கு portல? Totally how many pins it is going to have? Yes, very good. 32 input-output pins. That means you can interface your input-output device with the help of this 32 pins. Fine. Based on your requirement, you can connect any input-output device to any pins. Fine. Is it clear to all of you? So this 4 IO ports are also connected to the internal bus. Fine. Next, we have discussed we are having 2 16-bit timer bar counter. Here it is named as timer 0, timer 1. Fine. Here it is named as timer 0 and timer 1. If somebody asked how many ports available in 8051, you can say 4 ports. Fine. What about the size of each port? 8-bit. Fine. What about the name of the ports? What about the name of the ports? Can you people type it in the chat? The 4 ports oda naming என்னன்னு சொல்ல முடியுமா? You can see the diagram and answer. In the case of timer bar counter, we can say timer 0, timer 1, correct? In the case of ports, you can have P0, P1, P2, P3. Each port it is going to have 8 pins such that their pins are named like this. P0.0. Yes, you can see the chat. Port 0 pins. Port 0 pins. Yes. You can understand now. So port 0 is an 8-bit port. So you can have the pin like this. P0.7, P0.6. 0.7 is the MSB bit. Fine. So up to P0.7 you can have 8 pins. Similarly, for port 1, you will be having P1.7 to P1.0, like that it will go. Fine. So here we have 2 16-bit timer bar counter. That means, what is the maximum count value you can put in the timer bar counter? What is the maximum value of the timer bar counter register? I told it is a 16-bit timer bar counter. So what about the maximum value you can put? Yes, any idea? See, these things and all you have to know it. Yes, very good, Shivakumar. In hexadecimal it is FFFF. Very good. So the maximum count value the timer bar counter can have is FFFF. That means 16 ones in binary pattern. Fine. Then we have discussed about a serial port. Correct. So when we are saying serial port, we have told it is full duplex. That means it can do both reception and transmission simultaneously, so that it requires 2 pins, one for transmission, the another one for reception. Okay. So transmission from the serial port to outside, TXD pin for transmitting, then RXD pin for receiving the serial data. Fine. So we are having 2 pins, one pin for transmission, the another pin for reception. When we are saying full duplex, both transmission and reception can be done simultaneously, so that we are having two dedicated pins for serial communication. Correct? Is it clear? Is it clear? Then we have told about interrupt. So it can have 3 internal interrupts and 2 external interrupts that we have spoke earlier, that we have discussed earlier. Correct? So everything is over. Which one is the missing part in this block diagram? Can you people type it in the chat? Yes, crystal we have to connect outside, correct? So this is the way to connect the crystal. Okay. In later part of the time, we will be having the clock circuit. So I'll இன்னும் clear up புரியும் நமக்கு என்ன valuesலாம் அந்த capacity போடணும் அப்படின்றதெல்லாம் we will mention. Fine. Any other thing? CPU, ROM, RAM, 4 ports, then 2 timer bar counter and 1 serial port. Okay. Yes, crystal oscillator, correct? Oscillator circuit is available inside. Any other block is missing here? ஒரே ஒரு block பத்தி நான் இது வரைக்கும் பேசல. என்னது? Yes, in classroom 2, Sajesh typed bus control. Okay. I have told you one important thing. Do you remember that? Do you remember that? If the internal memory, on-chip memory is not sufficient for your application, one thing is you can go for some other microcontroller. Correct? எனக்கு on-chip memory 8051 பத்தல கரெக்டா 4 KB ROM 128 byte RAM தான் இருக்கு. For my application, if it is not sufficient, what I can do? I can go for some other advanced microcontroller. Fine. The next option is you can go for external memory. Fine. You can go for external memory. When we are going for external memory, what we need to access the memory or IO devices, what we need? வெளியில இருந்து ஒரு இன்ஃபர்மேஷனை உள்ள கொண்டு வரணும் இல்ல உள்ள இருந்து வெளியில போகணும் அப்படின்னா definitely what we need? Bus. Very good Anthony, Surya, Danya, Dixon, very good. Fine. In general, we need bus. Fine. To address the memory location, we need address bus. To get the data or instruction from the external program memory, we need data bus. Correct? Both address and data, both we need. Correct? So both buses we need. Correct? For that purpose, we are going to use 2 ports, port 0 and port 2, which is going to be work as a address and data bus during external memory communication. Correct? When your microcontroller is trying to get the data or program from the external memory, okay, these ports are to be sacrificed for accessing the external memory. Correct? So இந்த ரெண்டு போர்ட் நம்ம எதுக்காக sacrifice பண்ணிடணும் நம்மளோட applicationல? For interfacing the external memory, you have to sacrifice these 2 ports, port 0 and port 2. Fine? Is it clear? Is it clear now? Whenever your CPU is trying to access the program or data from the external memory, this bus control will choose the bus operation. That means the ரெண்டு port வந்து எனக்கு address data bus function ஆகுற மாதிரி it will generate the control signal, so that this 2 ports will function as a address data bus. Fine. So the same concept what we have used in 8085, what it is implemented in 8085, the same concept implemented here also. I have told you 64 kilobyte of external ROM and RAM, both you can access. Correct? So what about the number of address line? When I say 64 KB, what about the number of address line? 64 KB address பண்ணோம் நம்ம பார்த்தோம் கரெக்ட்டா. So what about the size of the address line must be? Yes, very good Sajesh. Anybody from classroom 1? Yes, very good Shivakumar. 16-bit address bus நமக்கு வேணும், so that we can address 64 kilobyte memory location, which is nothing but 2 to the power 60. Correct? Then to get the data, what about the word size of 8051 microcontroller? What about the word size of 8051 microcontroller? Yes, 8-bit. So it can need a 8-bit data bus. Correct? So 16 plus 8 24 pins வேணும் பட் ரெண்டு போர்ட் வச்சு நம்ம இம்ப்ளிமெண்ட் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க 8051 how it is possible, how it can be done, how it can be done, any idea? Yes, very good Sajesh, very good Sajesh. Yes, very good Anthony Surya. Here also they have used the concept of multiplexing. Fine. Port 0, port 2. Combinedly it is going to function as a address database. See, that's all about this block diagram. Fine. Fine. I will tell you one interesting thing. So this 8051 is a 40 pin IC. It is a 40 pin IC. Okay. So 8051 microcontroller is a 40 pin IC. Correct? Adala port pin மட்டும் எத்தனை? Can you people type it in the chat? Out of that 40 pins, how many port pins we are having? 32 port pins. What about the remaining number of pins? What about the remaining number of pins? 8. Okay. 8. Fine. Now coming to this slide. Kindly take a screenshot of this slide. We will go to the next slide. Kindly take a screenshot. Yes? Have you taken the screenshot? Yes, fine. Now coming to this is the pin out diagram of 8051 microcontroller, correct? So here you can see port 1, port 2, port 0, port 1, port 2, port 3. Totally it occupies 32 pins, correct? What about the remaining pins? Shall we go with it? To provide power supply, we need 2 pins, correct? What are the 2 pins? From this pin out you can see. Yes, VCC and VSS. VSS is nothing but ground only. Fine. So VCC, VSS. So we have the provision to provide a plus 5 volt DC power supply. Fine. How you will provide clock input in general to a microprocessor or microcontroller? Internally, எனக்கு oscillator circuit இருக்கு அப்படினா கண்டிப்பா வெளியில என்ன பண்ணிக்கலாம்? We can connect the crystal. Yes, to connect the crystal, we are having 2 more pins in this microcontroller. Can you identify it? The path is solla mudiyum nammalaal. Yes, external to external 1. We are having 2 pins, external to external 1. Across this pin only we are going to connect the crystal, correct? So inside the microcontroller I am going to have the oscillator, correct? On chip oscillator we are having. To connect the crystal we are provided 2 pins, external 1, external 2. Fine. What about the another 4 pin? To reset this 8051 microcontroller we need 1 pin, correct? To reset this microcontroller we need 1 pin, correct? Yes. Which pin? Yes, very good. RST. Okay, this RST pin is used to reset the microcontroller. Fine. Okay, fine. Now apart from that it is going to have 3 more pins: EA bar / BPP, ALE / PROG bar, then PSEN bar. Okay, out of this 3 signals, 2 signals are going to have dual function. alla gavanachina theriyum EA bar / BPP, ALE / PROG bar appdin potukom, correctங்களா? These 2 pins are going to have dual function. Okay, now we will discuss in detail about all the pin function. Okay, so this is the way the 40 pins are organized in 8051 microcontroller, correct? Okay, then my question comes, what about the 2 external interrupt pins? What about the TXD and RXD pin? What about the counter input pins? In the diagram you can see, when we are going to configure this timer as a counter, an external input we have to give for this timer 1 and timer 0, which is called as counter input. நான் சொன்ன இல்லைங்களா, ஒரு சென்சார்ல இருந்து ஒரு சிக்னல் வரணும், கரெக்ட்டா? When I am going to configure this as a counter, I have to give some signal which is going to detect an event. Say for example a person crossed அப்படினா எனக்கு ஒரு பல்ஸ் இங்க ஜெனரேட் ஆகி வரணும் இந்த மாடியூலுக்கு. Fine. Yes. Totally we are having 40 pins. How it is organized? idella paathachu correct. Apart from that, we need 2 pins for external interrupt, correct. Rendu pin enakku venum external interrupt handle pandradhu, fine. Then 2 pins we need for counter input, fine. 2 pins we need for transmission and reception of serial data, fine. Then 2 more pins we need for read-write signal. So totally we need another 8 more signal. Okay, in Intel we have what? Intel 82 microcontroller we have only 40 pins. Okay, how the other functions can be achieved? Any idea? Any idea? எனக்கு அட்ரஸ் பஸ் டேட்டா பஸ் கிடையாது, அதுக்கு பதிலாக என்ன பண்ணோம், 2 போர்ட் நம்ம யூஸ் பண்ணியாச்சு. அட்ரஸ் டேட்டா பஸ் தான் யூஸ் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க 82 மைக்ரோ கண்ட்ரோலர்ல. they have designed in such a way that 2 ports can be used as address data bus. Yes, we can use remaining port, correct, very good Anthony Surya. Port 3 pins is going to function those alternate functions. Okay, those can be used for doing the alternate function that we will discuss later. Okay, fine. Now we will go one by one signal. So VCC and VSS. So to provide power supply, VCC must be connected to plus 5 volt DC power supply. Then VSS must be connected to ground. That's all. Okay, in that way, you can power up this 80 microcontroller. To provide the clock input, a crystal must be connected across external 1 and external 2. Okay, and the on-chip oscillator generate the internal clock pulse. Okay, the frequency of internal clock pulse we are going to say it as FOSC. Fine. So the operating frequency of 8051 microcontroller, we can say it as FOSC. Fine. So here we don't have a clock divider. In the case of 8085 microprocessor, we have a clock divider, but here we don't have such things. Fine. So this is the way you have to connect the crystal. You can see this is the crystal connected across the pin external 1 and external 2, correct. Then 2 capacitor, okay, 2 shunt capacitors we have to connect at the terminals of the crystal so that it will provide a stable oscillation. Okay, the value of the capacitor is typically 20 picofarad. Kindly note down this 20 picofarad. Both must be having the same value of 20 picofarad. Okay, so kindly note down the capacitor value 20 picofarad. Okay, so this is the clock circuit we have to use for provide the clock input to Intel 8051 microcontroller. There are some other clock circuit are available. Okay, so different configurations are available. Okay, but we prefer to have this connection. Okay, crystal oscillator we are preferring so that we will be getting a stable clock pulse. Then EA bar slash VPP. So this pin, it is going to have dual function. One is external access enable pin. The another purpose is programming voltage. That means when you are programming this microcontroller, at that part of time, this pin can be used for programming voltage, VPP. So the pin VPP function during the execution of the program. Okay, during the execution of the program, this EA bar pin must be either connected to plus 5 volt or it must be connected to 0. Okay, EA bar meaning in what bar indicate whether it is active high or active low signal. So it is a input signal. Yes, active low input signal. That means when your microcontroller is operating in normal mode, okay, rather than programming. The microcontroller program பண்றப்ப மட்டும் தான் இந்த pin என்னவா function ஆகுது. It is going to be used as programming voltage pin. At remaining time, it is going to use as external access enable pin. That means if you connect this particular pin to ground, the external program memory will be enabled. Program execution எங்க இருந்து நடக்கும்? External memory இருந்து நடக்கும். You have to tell the microcontroller whether it has to access the program from external program memory or internal program memory. Fine. This pin is only meant for external program memory or internal program memory. It doesn't decide whether the data is external or internal. Please understand my wording. Please carefully note down my wording. This EA bar pin will select whether the program execution is from external program memory or from internal program memory. Fine. Internal program memory size enna solamba? What about the size of internal program memory? That means internal ROM, on-chip ROM, 4 KB. Very good. Okay, when I will go for external program memory? If my application program is exceeding the 4 KB memory, I have to go for external program memory. Correct? Suppose if you want to run the entire code from the external memory, this pin must be ground. Okay, this pin has dual function, external access enable signal during normal operation, then programming voltage pin while programming the 8051 microcontroller. Fine. So the external access function, that means to enable the external program memory access, this pin must be connected to ground. Correct? If this pin is connected to plus 5 volt, first we will go in that way. If this pin is connected to plus 5 volt, that means external access enable is not enabled. Correct? That means it is going to access the program from on-chip ROM. Correct? If this pin is connected to plus 5 volt, that means logic 1 connect pannirundhom appadina, then 8051 access the code from on-chip program memory up to 4 KB. Fine. If the execution goes beyond that 4 KB, automatically it fetches the program from external program memory. Is it clear to all of you? In the pin na 5 volt oda connect pannana on-chip program memory da execute pannum. But if it exceeds 4 KB, then the another 60 KB is from the external program memory only. Fine. Inga connect pannirkinglo connect pannalayo. Program space வந்து எனக்கு 4 KB குள்ள முடிஞ்சிருச்சுனா we can go for on-chip program memory alone. Fine. Otherwise, automatically it get the program from external memory beyond 4 KB. Is it clear to everyone? Is it clear or not? Yes. If this pin is connected to ground, EA bar, if it is connected to ground, then 8051 skip the internal program memory. It won't consider the internal program memory. Whole program must be present in the external memory only. Is it clear to everyone? At any cost of time, your 8051 can access only 64 KB of program memory. Even though you can have 4 KB ROM internal and 64 KB ROM external, at any point of time, it can access only 64 KB. Fine. If it is external memory, the whole thing, if it should be executed from the external memory, this pin must be connected to ground. That's all. That is the information what I am coming to tell. Is it clear to everyone? See, in your project and all, you are going to do simple things. That means the on-chip ROM is sufficient. So what must be the condition of this EA bar pin during the normal operation? Whether it should be connected to VCC or whether it should be connected to ground. You develop a project. Fine. 4 KB memory is enough for that application. You consider in that way. What you will do with this EA bar / VPP pin when it is operating in normal mode? Yes, very good, Danya. It must be connected to VCC so that you can use port 0 and port 2 for connecting IO device. நீங்க அந்த கண்டிஷன்ல எக்ஸ்டர்னல் மெமரி அக்சஸ் பண்ற மாதிரி போனீங்கன்னா you have to sacrifice 2 port 16 pins you have to sacrifice in your application. Fine. Yes, is it clear or not? Is it clear or not? If your microcontroller is going to execute the program from on-chip ROM, it must be connected to plus 5 volts. Correct? If the whole program memory, if it is going to execute from the external program memory, that means EA bars pin must be connected to ground. That's why it is termed as external access enable pin. Fine? Okay, fine. Clear. Next, programming voltage pin to provide plus 12 volt, this pin must be used as for programming purpose. If this pin is connected to plus 12 volt, then 8051 enter into programming mode and wait for program to be burned into the on-chip mode. Fine. So on-chip memory la program burn panna porom appadina, in the particular pin na enna pannom plus 12 volt la connect pannom. while you are going to program this microcontroller, program the on-chip ROM. Okay, this pin must be connected to plus power. That's all. So that's why we say this pin is having dual purpose. Fine. So external access enabled signal use panikalam, then programming voltage pin now use panikalam. Fine. When you are going to program this microcontroller, it should be considered as VPP. When it is running in normal condition, it is considered as EA bar. Fine. Okay. Then next, ALE/PROG bar. You all know very well about ALE. Yes. What is the abbreviation for ALE? First of all, you type it in the chat. ALE stands for address latch enable. Very good. Okay. In which condition we need this signal? Any idea? Yes. Very good, Sajesh. I think classroom 2 Sajesh type in your answer. Anybody from classroom 1? Yes. To demultiplex the lower order address bus and data bus, we need this signal. Fine. When you are going for external memory access, this pin is going to function as ALE. Correct? That means normal operating mode it is going to function as ALE pin. Okay. When you are programming your 8051 microcontroller, at that time, this pin can be used for giving programming pulse. Fine. Is it clear? This pin is also having dual function. Okay. Can I ask a question in this way? When you are going to program the 8051 microcontroller, what about the function of EA bar/VPP and ALE/PROG bar? Or in other words, I can ask, what are the signals are required to program the 8051 microcontroller? On-chip ROM program பண்றதுக்கு என்னென்ன pins நமக்கு வேணும்? When you are going to program this 8051 microcontroller, whichever pin we have to use. What are the pins we have to use? To provide the programming voltage, we need one pin. To provide the programming pulse, we need another pin. Correct? Yes. So for that, we have to use VPP and PROG bar. Yes. Is it clear to everyone? நீங்க 8051 ப்ரோக்ராம் பண்ண போறீங்க அப்படின்னா இந்த ரெண்டு பின்னை நம்ம என்ன பண்ண போறோம்? Programming voltage pin and programming pulse signal use பண்ண போறோம். Fine. In other time, it is going to use as external access enabled signal and ALE. Fine. That's why we say dual functions are available. Fine. Address latch enabled signal we all know. So this signal demultiplex the lower order address and data bus from port 0 of 8051 microcontroller while accessing the external program memory or data memory. Fine. External access again போனாலே நமக்கு என்ன வேணும்? We need address and data bus. Correct? So 16-bit address and 8-bit data bus are maintained in a 16-bit or 16 pins. Correct? So multiplexing is done internally. So to demultiplex it, we have to go for this ALE signal. Okay. So எப்படி நமக்கு சிக்னல் இருக்கு அப்படின்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா lower order address and multiplex data இது ரெண்டும் வந்து நமக்கு பாத்தீங்கன்னா port 0ல வருது. What about higher order address? What about higher order address? Which port is used for higher order address? Port 2 Shivakumar. Kindly see the diagram. Diagram பாத்தீங்கன்னா தெரியும். The diagram you can see. Port 0 and port 2. That's why it is in random order. Actually, port 0, port 1, port 2, port 3 வருஷல எழுதி இருக்கலாம் இங்க block diagramல கரெக்ட்டா. The purposeful இங்க என்ன பண்ணிருக்கோம்? Port 0, port 2, then port 1, port 3. Correct? That means port 0 for lower order address and data, port 2 for higher order address. Is it clear, Shivakumar? Yes, fine. So that's all about the signal. Okay. Then PSEN bar. Okay, PSEN bar, program store enable signal. This signal it is going to function as read signal when accessing the external program memory. Fine. ஒரு விஷயம் நல்லா யோசிச்சு சொல்லணும். Whether we have different bus for program and data in 8051, program எடுக்கிறதுக்கு தனி bus, address data bus, data எடுக்கிறதுக்கு தனி address data bus இருக்கா? No. No, we are having a common bus for getting the program as well as data, correct? So, to get the data into the memory, read operation, or to write the data into the data memory, we have two signals, RD bar, WR bar, correct? In 8051 microcontroller, we have write signal and read signal. Okay, to get the program into the microcontroller, we are having this pin PSEN bar, which is nothing but a read signal, which can be used as a read signal to get the code into the CPU. So this signal functions as a strobe signal to read the code from external program memory. Fine. So PSEN bar எப்ப யூஸ் ஆகாது? On chip program memory நம்ம access பண்றப்ப PSEN bar no use. When you are accessing the program from external program memory, this signal is going to be function as a read signal. அப்ப மீனிங் என்ன? RAM ல இருந்து டேட்டாவை read write பண்றதுக்கு RD bar WR pin இருக்கு. Fine. To read the code from the external program memory, we are having PSEN bar. That's all. So that's all about the function of PSEN bar. Then RST, reset signal. So this signal function as a reset signal to reset the CPU, IO device, and all the internal things of 8051 microcontroller. Fine. So this signal reset all the internal component of your 8051 microcontroller. Here the reset signal is active high or active low. Can you people type it in the chat? The reset signal of 8051 microcontroller is active high or active low? Yes, active high. So RST pin high logic la maintain anuchina, the microcontroller will get reset. Fine. So the CPU and the internal IO, everything will get reset except the memory. On chip ROM and RAM will not get affected during the reset operation. Please kindly note down this. Program memory and data memory எனக்கு என்ன ஆகாது? Reset ஆகாது. The CPU and all the IO component will get reset whenever the RST pin is pulled high. So the reset operation doesn't affect the ROM and the RAM contents. Fine. Then finally port 0, port 1, port 2, port 3. So 8-bit ports are used for IO interfacing. Totally we are having 4 ports, each are 8-bit in length. So these port pins are used to interface the external IO device with 8051, and apart from that, port pins can have alternate function. Already we have told you, correct? Port 0 and port 2 address data bus are alternate function use பண்ணிக்கிறோம். Whenever we are accessing the external memory, these two ports, port 0 and port 2, have to be sacrificed in your application. Fine. So alternate function of port 0 and port 2 already I have told you. Port 0 can be used as multiplex the address data bus. Fine. Port 2 can be used as higher order address bus. That's all. Yes. Port 0, port 2 oda alternate function ennu solliyachi. Similarly, already we have asked one question. For signal, read bar, write bar, fine. For a serial communication, RXD, TXD pin, then 2 external interrupt, fine. Then 2 counter inputs. For those 8 signals, we are going to use port 3 pin as alternate function, like this. So these are the alternate function of port 3 pins. So each pin of port 3 has individual alternate function, whereas port 0 and port 2 are having a common alternate function. The entire port pin can be used as address data bus, correct? Whereas in the case of port 3, each pin is going to have individual alternate function. Fine. Kindly take a screenshot of this. So RXD, TXD taniya pin kadiyadu 8051 microcontroller. Fine. When you are going to use the serial port, you should not connect this port pin for IO devices. Clear? Similarly, port 3.2, P3.3, these 2 pins are used for external interrupts. That means in your system, if you are having external interrupt, you cannot use these 2 pins for connecting IO devices. Fine. See, general purpose காக யூஸ் பண்ற பின் GPIO ன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. அட்வான்ஸ் மைக்ரோகண்ட்ரோலர்ல போறப்ப GPIO pins அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. General purpose input output pin அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. Fine. See, normal condition like this port 3 can be used for connecting general input output device. When you are going for serial communication, this 2 pin cannot be used for connecting input output device. Then when you are going for external interrupt, this 2 port pin cannot be used for general input output operation. Fine. When you are going to configure your 8051 timer as counter, then this 2 port pin P3.4 for timer 0 counter input, then T1 for timer 1 counter input. இந்த ரெண்டு pin sacrifice பண்ணணும். Fine. When you are going for external data memory, RD bar, WR bar, this signal, for that purpose you have to sacrifice P3.6 and 3.7. I hope it is clear for everyone. Out of the 4 ports, which port doesn't have any alternate function? Can you people type it in the chat? 4 போர்ட்ல எந்த போர்ட்டுக்கு alternate function கிடையாது. In 8051 microcontroller, in Intel 8051 microcontroller. Port 0, port 1, port 2, port 3. Out of the 4 port, yes, very good. Yes, very good. Port 1 doesn't have any alternate function in Intel 8051 microcontroller. Fine? Okay. Shall we proceed? Shall we proceed? Yes. So now you can understand the external interrupt pin, timer bar counter input pin, then TXD RXD pin, then RD bar WR pin. இதெல்லாம் இங்க இருந்து வந்துச்சுன்னு புரிஞ்சுதா? Which is nothing from port 3 pins. That's all. These signals are also from port 3 pins. See, based upon your application and your requirement, you can manage the 32 IO pins in your application. Is it clear to everyone? Sir, நான் இப்போ external memory நான் யூஸ் பண்ண போறேன், கரெக்டா? Then serial port எனக்கு வேணும். 2 interrupt கண்டிப்பா யூஸ் பண்ண போறோம். Fine? 2 டைமரையும் கவுண்டரா யூஸ் பண்றோம். In that particular condition, you will be having only 1 port dedicated for general purpose input output interfacing. Is it clear to everyone? Is it clear to everyone? Yes, very good. Very good. Okay. So that's all about the general function block diagram of 8051 microcontroller. Okay. So இப்போ நம்ம பார்த்தது எல்லாமே what are the pins available in the 8051 microcontroller? What about the function of those pins of 8051 microcontroller? Then block diagram of 8051. That's all. Okay. Now we will revise something. What is the word size of Intel 8051 microcontroller? Quick answer பண்ணுங்க பாப்போம். What is the word size of Intel 8051 microcontroller? Yes, very good. It is 8-bit microcontroller. Very good. Fine. Next. What is the size of on-chip ROM and RAM? What is the size of on-chip ROM and RAM? So exam la வந்து on-chip program memory, data memory ன்னு கேட்டாலும் புரிஞ்சுக்க தெரியணும். Fine. Which one we call it as program memory and which one we call it as data memory? Which one we call it as program memory and which one we call it as data memory? Yes, ROM means program memory or code memory. What about data memory? RAM can be called as data memory. Okay, fine. So on-chip ROM 4 KB, 128 byte on-chip. How many ports are available in Intel 8051 microcontroller? 4 ports. Mention the number of pins in each port. ஒவ்வொரு போர்ட்லயும் எத்தனை பின் இருக்கும்? 8 pins. Very good. So 4 ports and each of 8 bit. 8 pins named from 0 to 7. Correct? Next. How many timers are available in Intel 8051? What about the size of each timer? There are 2 timer bar counter available in Intel 8051. What about the size of each timer bar counter? Yes, it is 16 bit. Very good. Whether the UART of Intel 8051 is full duplex or half duplex? Yes, it is full duplex. Correct. How many interrupts can be handled by interrupt controller of Intel 8051 in total? Yes, very good. 5 interrupts. Okay. 2 are external and 3 are internal. Very good. All are vectored. Very good. Which pin of 8051 generate the read strobe to read the code from external ROM memory? Which signal of Intel 8051 can be used to read the code from external memory? I mean external program memory. External program memory. Read strobe nu sollirkom. Yes, very good Dixon. Such is what you have typed is external program memory enable பண்றதுக்கு EA bar. Correct? To read the code from the external memory, we had one signal PSEN bar. Yes. State the condition to access the code from on-chip ROM. On-chip ROM access ஆகணும் program execution க்கு அப்படினா what must be the condition? Now you can answer such as yes, EA bar is equal to 5 volt or EA bar is equal to 1. Correct? 1 means 5 volt அப்படின்றத mean பண்ணும். One logic 1. We are telling the signal must be pulled high. What is the operating voltage of Intel 8051 microcontroller? Yes, plus 5 volt DC power supply. Fine. Which pin of Intel 8051 is used to reset the Intel 8051? Yes, RST. Very good. What is the maximum size of ROM and RAM can be connected to Intel 8051 externally? Yes, 64 KB of ROM and 64 KB. Name the ports of Intel 8051. Name the ports of Intel 8051. Yes, P0, P1, P2, P3. Yes. So now we will go with the memory organization. Okay. How the memory is organized in the case of Intel 8051 that we will discuss. Okay. Probably with this topic, we can stop today's session. Okay. So memory organization, it's very, very important thing when you are going for a microcontroller. Okay. In the case of microprocessor, we all know the entire program memory or data memory can be present externally, correct? Whereas in the case of microcontroller, both program and data memory are available inside the microcontroller. That means on-chip program and data memory are available. Fine. So here in Intel 8051, we have discussed the size of ROM and RAM, correct? So the internal program memory of 4 KB, correct? Yes, 4 KB. Fine. So the 4 KB address பண்றதுக்கு எனக்கு எத்தனை I mean, what about the range of the address? That we have to know. One more thing I have told you, whether the program execution is from internal ROM or external ROM, the size of the address is 16 bit. Adhula endha doubt kediyadhu. Fine. There is no doubt in that. Fine. Even though if you choose on-chip ROM da enak execute aganum appdin sonnalum, program from on-chip ROM must be executed appdin sonnalum, nam enna pannuvom? Up to 4 KB it is going to execute the internal ROM content. Beyond that it is going to execute the program from external ROM only, correct? So in the case of program memory of 8051, it is always 16 bit address. What about the address bit of program memory? 16 bit. Adhula endha doubt me kediyadhu. Fine. Okay. So 4 KB அப்படினா எப்படி சார் இந்த range வரும்? Any idea? How we can write the 4 KB? 4 into 2 power 10. எழுதலாமா? Will we write in this way? Chatla பாருங்க. 4 into 2 to the power 10 by 2 to the power 10 means what? 2 to the power 10 means what? 1024. 1024 byte is nothing but what? See, 1K அப்படின்றது தான் நான் என்ன எழுதியிருக்கேன். Yes, very good. 1K. That's what I have written as 2 to the power 10. Correct? 4 into 1 kilobyte. That we have 4 into 2 to the power 10 bytes. Now, I am going to write like this. 2 power 2 into 2 power 10. Correct? Shall we write like this? Shall we write like this? Wait a minute. I will type it in the chat. we write like this? Yes. So finally we can write like this. 2 to the power 12. That means the maximum size must be 12 bit, correct? 4 KB address பண்ணோம்னா maximum எத்தனை address line வேணும்? 12 address line. But your 8051 microcontroller beyond 4 KB is having the capability to access the program from external memory, correct? So generally வந்து 16 bit address தான் எனக்கு இருக்குது. In Intel 8051 microcontroller 16 bit address space for program memory. So அதுல எந்த டவுட்டுமே கிடையாது. Fine. But on-chip ROM ஓட address range எப்படி 0FFF அப்படின்னு எனக்கு தெரியணும்னா maximum on-chip ROM size வந்து 4 KB. That means 12 bit address. All 12 bit. If it is 1 means what? What is the hexadecimal equivalent of this binary value? This is the maximum address of the 4 KB memory, correct? 12 ones. 12 bit அப்படின்னு சொன்னா maximum address என்ன வரும்? 12 ones. So what about this value in hexadecimal? But address must be always 16 bit ன்னு சொன்னதனால it will be like this. Yes. So that's why the maximum address range is 0FFF. Correct? Is it clear now? Is it clear now? Is it clear or not? Yes, that's why we mentioned the address range is 00000 to 0FFFH. Fine. So 4 KB அப்படின்றப்ப இந்த address space வந்துருச்சு. That's all. Fine. So external ROM அப்படின்னு சொன்னா என்ன சொன்னோம்? 64 KB. That means the address range is from 0000 to what? Address range எதுல இருந்து எது வரைக்கும் இருக்கும்பா? External program memory address range. See, இந்த address range நமக்கு கண்டிப்பா கண்டுபிடிக்க தெரியும். Yes, very good Sajis. He typed. Yes, very good Shivakumar. So external program memory ன்னு சொன்னாலோ இல்ல external data memory ன்னு சொன்னாலோ the address space is from 0000 to FFFH. Correct? Is it clear now? Is it clear now to all of you? Yes. See, that's why program memory should be always 16 bit. 16 bit address இருக்கும். Fine. ஆனா data memory பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் internally we have 128 byte, correct? 128 bytes, which is nothing but 2 to the power 7. 2 to the power 7 bytes. Correct? 2 to the power 7 bytes. Yes or no? 2 to the power 7 bytes. Yes or no? Total away 128 bytes. That means 2 to the power 7 bytes. Correct? So how many bit address we need? How many bit address we need? How many bit address we need for internal RAM addressing? Of course 7, but it is not 7. It is 8 only. The reason is, see, whenever you are having an address or data bus, it must be in multiples of 8. It must be in multiples of 8. When you are saying a processor or controller, it must be in multiples of 8 only. Clear? The another thing is, here the entire RAM is 128 only. That means the address from 00 to 7F. Eppadi 7F nu purinjudha? You can see in chat. Even though I am having a 8-bit address, 2 to the power 7 memory location we are having. So 7-bit address is enough. That means from 00 to 7F, we are having the internal RAM of 128 byte. In Intel 8051, we have some set of register that we call it a special function register, SFRs. In simple word, we can say abbreviated as SFR. Okay, for SFR, they are allocating the address space from 80 to FF. That is, sir, 80 to FF. That is 00 to 7F. It is for internal RAM. Fine, it is for internal RAM or on-chip RAM. Then remaining address space 80H to FFH. It is meant for SFRs. Actually, 128 byte RAM தான் நமக்கு இருக்கு. But another 128 byte address space generate பண்ணிருக்காங்க. That is used for SFRs. In simple word, I can say in 8085 microprocessor, you don't have address for register. Accumulator ku address la kediyadu. B register ku address kediyadu. C register ku address kediyadu. But here in the case of 8051 microcontroller, we are having 21 SFRs, 21 special function registers. Fine, 21 special function registers that are mapped into this address space. The address space le edo or edathila ovvoru register map ayum. That's it. That means through address also you can address the register, or you can use the name of the register in your instruction. Both can be possible. Is it clear? So the internal memory is organized in such a way. First ROM, RAM, renda split pandrom. ROM 4 KB. The address ranges from 0002 to 0FFF. Fine. The RAM address space is from 00 to 7F, and 80 to FF are mapped for some of the SFRs, special function registers, that we call it as special function registers, that we call it as SFR, not SFRs. S stands for plural, correct? SFR only, special function register, SFR. So 21 SFR நமக்கு 8051 ல இருக்கு. Fine. Okay, coming to the external data memory, 64 KB அப்படின்னு சொல்றதுனால 16 bit address for external data memory. Fine. So இதுல ஒரே ஒரு விஷயம் நமக்கு கன்ஃபியூஷனா இருக்கலாம். சார் ப்ரோக்ராம் மெமரி பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் 16 bit address சொன்னீங்க, either internal or external சொன்னீங்க. But data memory பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் என்னது 8 bit address for internal RAM and 16 bit address for external RAM. Is it clear to all of you? Is this thing is clear to all of you? See, உங்களோட இன்ஸ்ட்ரக்ஷனை நீங்க எழுதுறப்ப அதனுடைய அட்ரஸ் சைஸ் கண்டிப்பா தெரிஞ்சிருக்கும். ப்ரோக்ராம் மெமரின்னு சொன்னாலே 16 bit address தான், அதுல எந்த வித மாற்றமும் கிடையாது. When we are saying data memory, you should remember what about the address of internal data memory? Size of address of internal data memory? Internal RAM location oda address எல்லாம் எத்தனை bit இருக்கும்? 8 bit தான் இருக்கும். Whereas external RAM access பண்ண போறோம் அப்படின்னா 16 bit. Don't forget this. Never forget this. Is it clear? Is it clear or not? See, that's why memory organization is very important in the case of microcontroller. நீங்க எழுத போற இன்ஸ்ட்ரக்ஷன்ல internal RAM memory access பண்ண போறீங்கன்னா you should use 8 bit address. If you are going to access the external RAM memory, you should use 16 bit address. Don't forget that. But in the case of program memory, it is common. In the case of program memory, it is common. Internal இருந்தாலும் சரி, external இருந்தாலும் சரி, 16 bit address space தான். Fine. Now, one of the question for you people, 8051 follows von Neumann architecture or Harvard architecture? Which one? 8051 ல memory தனித்தனியா இருக்கு, ஆனா bus காமனா இருக்கு. Correct? In the case of 8085, same address space for program and data, same address, same bus for accessing the program and data. Here in the case of 8051 microcontroller, which computer architecture is followed? Okay, when we are saying Harvard architecture, we have to note down one thing. What about the bus? What about the bus? Whether we are having different bus for program and data, on seeing this diagram you can say, or we are having a common bus. Kindly type it in the chat. We are having the common bus for accessing the program memory and data memory. Fine. Memory தனித்தனியா இருக்கு, ஆனா bus எப்படி இருக்கு? Common bus இருக்கு. Now you control whether it is von Neumann or Harvard. No. It is named as mixed architecture. Very good. Mixed Harvard architecture. Okay, mixed architecture. In simple way, we can say mixed architecture. In most of the interview questions, they will say it is Harvard architecture regarding the program and the data memory separation. Clear? You can explain when you are attending the interviews. Memory is like this way, and bus is like this way. So it can be called as mixed architecture. Fine. When you are going for advanced microcontroller, you can see they prefer Harvard architecture, pure Harvard architecture. What it means by pure Harvard architecture? You should have separate program memory, separate data memory, separate bus for accessing the program, separate bus for accessing the data. Fine. That we call it as pure Harvard architecture. Fine. In Intel 852 microcontroller, they implemented mixed Harvard architecture. Fine. So 8051 microcontroller can address a maximum of 64 KB of external program memory and 64 KB of external data memory. So no. Fine. So this is the way. Internal ROM. EA bar 0 skips internal ROM. Correct? The entire program 64 KB external ROM access. If EA bar equal to 1, 4 KB, initial 4 KB is from on-chip ROM, the another 60 KB from 1000 to FFFH. It is going to execute the program from external memory. Fine? Even though I say EA bar equal to 1 in an internal ROM, when the program execution exceeds beyond 4 KB, automatically it sets the external ROM model. Fine? So either 64 KB of program is only from external ROM or 4 KB from internal ROM and 60 KB from external ROM. In that way only it can be organized. Fine? Data memory organization. Okay. An introduction we will see today. Fine? So data memory அப்படின்னு சொன்னா அதோட அட்ரஸ் ரேஞ்ச் என்ன ஞாபகம் இருக்கா? அட்ரஸ் ஸ்பேஸ் ஞாபகம் இருக்கா? Yes. We are speaking about the internal data memory organization. Internal RAM memory organization. We can say in that way also. What about the address space? 00 to FF? No, Shivakumar. Actually, 00 to FF means 128 byte RAM 00 to 7F. Very good. Fine. Both internal RAM of 128 byte and external RAM of 64 KB can be accessed by 8051 at any point of time. எப்படி சார்? இது ஒரு முக்கியமான கேள்வி. ப்ரோக்ராம் மெமரி பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் நான் என்ன சொன்னேன்? 64 KB எப்படி இருக்கலாம்? Total 64 can be from external memory or 4 KB internal, 60 KB external அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவோம். ஆனா இங்க என்ன சொல்றோம்? Both 128 byte RAM 00 to 7F and external RAM of 0000 to FFFH. In the locations ஒரே நேரத்துல I mean both can be accessed by 8051 at any time. அதாவது 128 byte RAM plus 64 KB data memory டோட்டலா நமக்கு இருக்கு. Fine. How it is going to be organized அப்படின்னு பார்த்தோம்னா the instruction decides whether 8051 access the data from internal RAM or external RAM. Which decides internal program memory or external program memory? Which thing decides the program execution is from internal ROM or external ROM? எது decide பண்ணுச்சு? Program memory. Internal external hardware. Whereas data memory internal external எது define பண்ண போது? Instruction. Software is going to define. See, program execution எனக்கு internal இருந்தா EA bar pin என்ன பண்ணனும்? 5 volt connect பண்ணனும். Whether it is from external ROM அப்படின்னு சொன்னா EA bar 0 பண்ணனும். That means through hardware we are configuring the program execution is internal from internal or external ROM. Correct? Whereas in the case of data memory, it is decided by the instruction. Programmer is going to decide. நான் external RAM memory use பண்ண போறேனா இல்ல internal RAM memory use பண்ண போறேனா? Fine. Clear. The only instruction which can be used to access the external RAM memory is MOVX instruction. MOVX A, DPTR அப்படின்னா from external RAM we are taking data to accumulator. So we are having only one instruction here. Okay, here we are having only two instructions. Okay, to access the data between the external data memory and the microcontroller. MOVX instruction, correct? MOVX A comma at DPTR na from memory to accumulator. MOVX at DPTR comma A na from accumulator to memory. Clear? Is it clear? In the particular instruction, processor execute, controller execute pannal, automatically the data transfer is from external memory to RAM or from, external memory and accumulator or from accumulator to external memory. MOVX. General internal data transfer, we use move instruction. Okay, these things and all you will be getting clarified when going for instruction set of 80-ton microcontroller. I hope here we can stop. Here we can stop. The remaining we will see in the next session. Here we can stop.